Welcome back to Collective Perspective. This is episode 11. When you get down to it, I think you can really separate collectors out into two distinct categories. There's a fine line here. Uh, there are people who want all original components, and then there are people who are perfectly fine with customized things. Maybe a fine line isn't the right way to say it, but this topic was actually spawned out of a viewer request from Zylotic83, and I added on to it. So, thanks for that idea, Vinny. But
Yeah.
I made a list of custom. I made a list of common custom-made things that I've seen collectors use, and I want you, Craig, to tell me your thoughts on each of them. Are you ready?
Of course, I'm always ready.
Custom artwork replacements. So what I mean by that is the best example I can give is I see people taking out inserts, the artwork of their Switch games lately, and they're like, I really hate this wall of all red, so let me get some custom sleeves to put inside of here. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have, and I don't know. I mean, I'm also in the camp that the wall of red is pretty ugly. Honestly, that's kind of why I don't collect Switch too much, at least not super heavily, because I think that it just doesn't look very appealing. I actually kind of like the idea of this. I think as long as you keep the original artwork, don't get rid of it. I think that would be uh, kind of silly. But I'm not exactly sure. When people do it, do they just print it out and like put it over, or are they just completely replacing it, like taking out the other cover? Do you know?
I would assume they're removing the other one. If it were me to do something like that, I wouldn't know what to do with the original, and I'm obviously not going to throw it in the garbage,
Yeah.
so I would have to just layer them if it were me.
Yeah, I think layering is the way to do it, but I actually like that better too. I thought about doing that at one point because I think the wall of red is pretty unattractive myself.
Well, that's cool. We have a disagreement here on the very first bullet point.
There we go.
I just personally can't do it. I think I would not be able to live with myself, but that's just my stupid brain. So
Hmm.
I don't even have a reason for it. That's just my opinion.
Is it just because it's not
Um,
the original?
yeah, exactly. Next one here. This one drives me kind of crazy. Game Boy games in DS cases with custom cover art. Now, I will say that I understand why people do this. It is annoying to try to store loose cartridges and also store them in a way that makes sense, like maybe alphabetically or whatever. So I get it, but I have to say I'm not a fan. But what are your thoughts?
Um, I'm not entirely for or against it, and it's kind of hard for me to say. And I'd say you too, because we're both kind of anal, I guess is the best way to put it when it comes to CIB and especially Game Boy Advance. You and I both pretty much exclusively collect that CIB. So it looks a little weird to me, but I think that it's probably the best way to store those kind of games if you're not going to go complete in box. It's a
Yeah.
lot cheaper to do that, so I won't shame anybody if they have it. It's just not for me.
Yeah, we're not. Let's make it clear that we're not shaming anybody in this episode. But I do think that the amount of money you're going to end up spending on all, I don't know how many Game Boy games
Hmm.
a person listening to this might have. If you have 100 loose cartridges, if you're going to spend a bunch of money on 100 DS empty cases or whatever, and then print out a bunch of artwork for them, you might want to consider like how many actual complete in box games you could buy with that money, with authentic complete in box. I mean,
No, that's a fair
um,
point too. I have a friend that does that with all of his Super Nintendo and N64 games. He buys custom cases, just because he thinks it looks better on his shelf that way than a loose cartridge. And I'm like, I get it, but that's something I've thought about in the past as well. Talking to him, as I'm like, at that point, wouldn't you rather just have the boxes then, or save up the boxes if you're going to spend the money to get a case to put them in anyway? Because it's like usually when you buy these custom cases, it's not like they're like $2 or $3. They're always like I'd say probably what like 5 to 8, 5 to 10. So it's going to add
oh
up either
wow.
way. So as a cost saving measure, depending on how much you're buying, you're not really saving a ton of money depending on the games and everything else.
Right. Okay, next one I have here is custom shells for consoles, and the one that I guess is the easiest to think about is like Game Boy Advance reshelling your console, or You see people do crazy things with actual consoles like the Super Nintendo. I've seen like a Millennium Falcon before. How do you feel about things like that?
I am 100% on board with custom consoles and modding consoles and reshelling and all that. The only time I don't like it is when people make changes to like limited edition or rare consoles.
Oh yeah.
I feel like those shouldn't be touched with since there's such a finite amount of them. But if it's just like your regular any day Super Nintendo or GameCube or anything, I think that's more fair game.
Yeah, I would have to say the same thing. I have a GBA that's been modded with the backlight, and it's in a really pretty like teal see-through
Yeah, it's
custom
gorgeous.
shell. Um, but yeah, on the other hand, a Zelda DS or something, I would never do a single thing to that. Like, I would
Yeah,
never do anything to a limited edition console. I'm with
and
you
it's
there.
like if you want to have the look of that limited edition console and customize it some way, then you could get a reproduction like casing or shell of that special edition and then mod it anyway if you're gonna mod it. So just don't touch the special editions.
Yeah, there are
That is something I will shame you for. We said no shaming. That's the exception. That rubs me the wrong way.
there are billions of smoke gray N64s out there that can be torn apart, but leave
Yeah.
the grape alone.
If you do anything to my grape, find out where you live.
Next up was going to be console mods. We kind of talked about it already.
Hmm.
How do you feel about like DS macros or whatever they call them, where you chop off the top because of a broken hinge or maybe the screen
Um,
doesn't work and they just make it a complete GBA? You know what I mean?
yeah, I don't think that's a terrible idea. I think it's silly how much people pay for them. Because you'll see online people will pay for like $100 for one, but that's definitely not something you should be paying up for. You're technically buying a broken console with like two two wires rewired so that way it turns on and there's still sound. It's definitely not worth paying up for. But if you have a broken DS, I actually think that's probably the best thing you can do with it because just
Right.
replacing the top half is one, a hassle, and two, not really worth the money. You might as well just buy another console at that point because that's probably the only way you're going to get that top half anyway.
I agree. I've never been a console mod type of guy. I pretty much like my stuff to remain all original, but I did do the GBA mod, like I said, and I have no regrets. I just had a horrendous GBA line around. It was so like not the color it was supposed to be.
Hmm.
There was like sand in the freaking in the speaker holes, like someone took it to the beach. It was just it's doing better now than it was previously, and I think that that is definitely the type of console that you should be taking to mod. Um, but yes, console mods, I'm cool with it.
Yeah,
Um,
I like modding. I like a homebrew, all that kind of stuff. I'm honestly into all that. So I'm a big proponent. Like I said, as long as you're not messing with the special editions. For the most part, most mods and homebrew and things just makes the experience better. So I mean, especially if it's just for your own personal use, I would say something that you probably should do, especially with things like a 3DS or a Vita. Uh, if you have a GameCube, Swiss, and all that kind of stuff with the GC loader, just makes everything more convenient.
yeah. Um, agree. I don't know why. Another one was going to be reproduction games. I'm not sure what my issue is, but if I have a modded Wii, and I
Hmm.
just don't have the desire to play the games that I have loaded onto it. I can't figure out what my issue is, but emulating just does not appeal to me. I
That's
don't know what it
fair.
is.
Um, for me, it kind of depends. Like, if I want to play a PlayStation 1 game or a Super Nintendo game or something like that, I'll actually prefer to play it on a modded handheld and play it that way. But certain things like PS2, GameCube, and stuff, it's like obviously I could run that on my PC and run it better than the original hardware and stuff. But I don't like doing that as much, and I really couldn't tell you why. So it's almost weird. It's kind of like I have like a cutoff date, like with retro games. I don't mind emulation, especially if the experience is more catered to what I like to do. For example, I prefer most things on handheld. Uh, But I could see why. I don't know. There's something that just feels less authentic, and it's because it is. I get it. It always feels more fun, more, I guess, real is the best way to put it when you're playing it on authentic hardware. So I could see why you have that viewpoint.
It might be something to do with that. I don't know. I'll find out one day what my issue is.
I don't know. You're just a stickler with a lot of these things, and that's okay. It's why I love you.
The next one I am a big stickler on N64 cartridge labels. So putting them on the top of the, you know how Super Nintendo and NES games have labels and you can see them when they're laying on their side. Um,
It's
this
how
has
they
been
should
going on for
be.
a long time. Yeah.
That's how they
How do you
should be.
feel? How do you feel about
N64
adding those
games,
stickers?
they should have them because N64 games suck having not having them. It's a pain in the ass.
So how do you feel about the custom ones that people put on?
100%. I did that when I had the full set. Even when I had just a handful of games, I did that. I hated just kind of guessing where it was. I thought it was so annoying.
I'm a guesser. I just put them in alphabetical order, and I would rather pull them out and look and see where I'm at than
But
put stickers on it.
they're no harm. They come off so easily, and they don't look ugly. They match pretty well depending on the
No, they
ones you
look
buy and
great.
stuff. Then why don't you want it?
I think I'm just weird. I can't put custom things on my games. I can't add stickers to things that I'm usually ripping stickers off of.
You're
I don't
such a
know.
purist.
Maybe we shouldn't have done this episode.
Everyone's gonna be like, "Wow, Christian got a stick up his butt."
Okay, I'm a little more lenient on styrofoam blocks for your NES complete in box games.
Oh yeah, who gives a shit about that? That's fine.
There's no
Uh,
way for you to tell if this came from a factory that Nintendo was running or whatever. Like, it's just styrofoam at the end of the day.
oh, 100% stuff like that. Replacing jewel cases and styrofoam and Sega CD and Saturn games. I think those all don't matter because it's the same thing at the end of the day. All those, if that bothers you, I want to be like, prove it. Prove to me how it bothers you and how you know. then then I'll understand how you feel that way because there's no way to know.
Well, I was told in the Collector's Quest podcast that there is a way to tell the difference between Sony's PS1 jewel cases. So, um, I don't know. I'm sure that I mean it's got to be a minor difference. Like the weight might be off, there might be some slight differences. I'm sure 90% of people don't give a dang about that.
No. Coming from me, the big ass nerd I am, if you care about that, you're a nerd.
Okay. The last thing was just more along the lines of the styrofoam block trays and baggies for Game Boy games. Totally fine with me.
Oh, I don't care. I get replacement trays all the time if I don't have them.
Did you have any other that you wanted to add to this list?
In terms of custom things, I was gonna just say one thing I do enjoy that some people make is when they make manuals for more modern games, like fan-made ones. I see ones for Switch and Vita and stuff like that all the time, and I do enjoy that. I think those are kind of fun and harmless, definitely. So, but that's not too much of a modification to the actual games themselves, you know. But just shout out to people making manuals because we don't get them with our games anymore, and it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, that was a good one. I didn't even think to add. That's like the ultimate Etsy item right there. That and the slipping in the artwork for your
Yeah,
Switch
I love
games.
I buy a bunch of ones for my Vita games. There's somebody, forget his actual name, but his YouTube channel is Too Old for Gaming. Excellent channel, everyone should check out. He does a lot of Vita Switch handheld kind of coverage, and he makes a lot of custom manuals for Vita games, which is really cool. So yeah, check that out.
Aren't there some Vita games that have manuals or not really?
Some, but not many. It's a very, very small amount.
Wow.
And like no first party Sony ones do. So it's kind of cool to have things like Uncharted and Gravity Rush because he makes ones for games like that.
The end of an era. Um Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you join the Discord and we'll see you in episode 12 of Collective Perspective.